Hello everybody and welcome back to another new vlog. Thank you for joining me once again. I'm in the Malvern Hills once again and I'm heading up to Table Hill, which is just a few minutes from where I am right now. And when I get there I'm hoping to have a bit of a wander round over towards possibly Summer Hill and maybe even Worcestershire Beacon if I decide I've got the time when I get there. But the real reason that I'm out today is to try and shoot some photos using the Sunny16 rule. Thankfully the Sunny16 rule does not require the addition of sun, because as you'll see from the sky behind me, that thick cloud, although it's not very dark, it's still very thick cloud. We don't have an awful lot of sun, so I can still use the Sunny16 rule on a day like this. And that's the plan for today. If you don't know what the Sunny16 rule is, then stick with me and I'll let you know when I get to the top of Table Hill in a few minutes' time. So here I am at the top of Table Hill, ladies and gentlemen. In the background you can probably just about see behind me there is Sugarloaf Hill and Worcestershire Beacon just behind that. The plan originally was to head on up to the summit of Summer Hill, which is over there, from Table Hill, and then head back across towards Worcestershire Beacon. But I think now, instead of going up Summer Hill, I'll probably just carry on over to Sugarloaf Hill and then work my way up to Worcestershire Beacon behind. If I get that far, of course, it depends all on time really. I don't know how much time I've got left really to get there and how much time it's going to take me from here to get to there. But in the meantime I'm going to stop and take a picture of this because I like the image of Sugarloaf Hill and Worcestershire Beacon in the background. So I'll set this one up and I hope you like this image. Now I mentioned earlier that I was going to tell you all about the Sunny16 rule. Well, here goes. It started off way back when analog film cameras didn't have a light meter built into the camera, and it wasn't until the advent of digital that started to happen. There were latterly some of the very later analog film cameras which were able to include a light meter in the camera, but in general it's only been since the advent of digital that we've been able to use this. So the idea is that you set your ISO first of all, and then you set your shutter speed to a reciprocal value of whatever the ISO is. So for example, if your ISO is 100, your shutter speed then should be 1/100th of a second, ISO 200, 1/200th of a second, ISO 400, 1/400th of a second, etc. And then you set your aperture at the end depending on the light that you've got around you. On a sunny day you start with f16, a small aperture, and that's why the rule became known as the Sunny16. If it's sunny you use an f16, but obviously if we got a really dull overcast day like today, you can then increase the size of your aperture to f11, f8 or even 5.6 depending on what the conditions are. And that's basically it. So you start with your ISO and then you set your shutter speed to your reciprocal value of your ISO, and then set your aperture starting at f16 if it's a sunny day. I'm going to move on and see if I can find the path that leads me down now towards Sugarloaf Hill behind me. I'll catch you there. Well, that's cheered me up now, and this here apparently is the summit of Sugarloaf Hill, and it's only taken me about 15 minutes to get here from the top of Table Hill, which I'm quite pleased about because I don't know if you can see quite well into the distance just there. That there is Table Hill. Further round of course is Summer Hill that I ignored, and that's Table Hill just there. And obviously you can see the distance I've travelled. It looks a lot further than it seemed to be walking that distance, So I'm quite pleased that I've got here that quickly. Just the other side of me, just there, that is Worcestershire Beacon right behind me. Whether or not I can get to the top of there or not is another matter, because like I said earlier, it's all about timing. But in the meantime, I'm really enjoying this Sunny16 rule. It's something I've never actually tried myself before, but I'm glad that I came out and tried it today. The reason I decided to do it, or the thing that inspired me to do it, was looking at the Film Photography Handbook. It's a book that I've had for a number of years, and every now and then I'll go back to it and read a couple of chapters. And I just happened to be looking through it the other day when I came across the Sunny16 rule, and I thought, well, I'd like to try that out myself. So that was the idea of today's vlog. I'm going to stop here and take a photo. There's a nice little shot just down in the valley behind me as I turn around here. There's a nice little shot just over here, but I want to get the long lens out and take a shot of that, because it means zooming right in to a little patch of greenery, some fields and some trees and all kinds of things just there. So I want to get the long lens out for that. So guys, I'm not going to make it to the top of Worcestershire Beacon. That's it there behind me. That's the summit behind me. It's not all that far away, only about 10 or 15 minutes or so, but I'm already pushing it for time because I've got to get back to get a train. And if I don't make that train, then there's not another one for another 3 hours after that. It's a little bit annoying, but obviously I don't want to miss my train and then have to wait 3 hours to get another one, because then it'll be 9 o'clock before I get home tonight, and I don't really fancy that. So instead of carrying on up to the summit of Worcestershire Beacon, where I've been before anyway, and you've seen the pictures from there, they're nothing spectacular, it's just a great view, that's all. But all you see really is sky and just fields spread out for miles and miles. Some people like that, but it's just not quite inspiring enough for me. Not as much as being at the foot of a hill with a lake and some pathways going up to the hill. That's much more inspiring for me, to be able to be at the bottom of the hill. Instead, I've decided to head back down and catch my train rather than going up to Worcestershire Beacon. But I'd just like to show you this before I do. There's a beautiful view here where I'm standing. You can see just behind me, we've got, just over this way somewhere, we've got Sugarloaf Hill where I just was, and then a little bit further around we've got Table Hill behind that, and then of course there's Summer Hill even further back. I think that's Summer Hill there, and then Sugarloaf Hill is somewhere here and Table Hill is somewhere in between. Obviously I've got to stop here and capture a picture of those because the composition looks perfect from here. And once I've done that, I'm going to call it a day and head back down the hill, back to my train station. So I hope you've enjoyed this week's vlog. If you have, please remember to give it a thumbs up, and also please remember to subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Your support is really helpful. And if you've got any comments or any suggestions you want to make, please leave them in the comments below. And I'll try and answer every comment anyway. But for now guys, thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again on another vlog very soon. Bye for now. Guys, apologies for my laxity. I wanted to give you a quick recap while I was up there of the Sunny16 rule. So here goes. You start first of all with your ISO, and whatever your ISO is, your shutter speed should then be a reciprocal value of your ISO. So for example, ISO 100, shutter speed of 1/100th of a second, ISO 200, shutter speed 1/200th of a second, ISO 400, a 400th of a second, etc. Hope that's fairly simple for you. And then of course you set your aperture depending on what the lighting situation is like and whatever the circumstances are. So if your scene is a very light sunny scene, you start with f16, and that is why it is called the Sunny16 rule. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.